Right, wake up, Milo. Wake up.
All right, we'll start it there. Well, hi.
Right.
What? Hey.
Hi, guys.
It's been, I mean, not really a hot minute for me, because we've been talking on and off like since you've been gone. But you've been gone for a lot of people for a while. So I don't know. I just, it's something different, but I just thought it would be cool to sit down with you for an hour and kind of talk about where you've been gone, what you've been up to, life, and all that kind of stuff that used to sort of be a thing on my channel, where I had my podcast and is no longer really a thing.
Rest in peace.
I know. Well, it's kind of.
It's still there in spirit, damn it.
Yeah. Like every like 6 months when my life just feels like it's falling apart, I go back and I'm like, okay, therapy session. But yeah. So
Can we pause on that for a sec? Because
Sure.
before people hear anything about me or whatever, I feel like that's actually a really interesting point. Over the years, I think in the same way that you were just describing, have had points in my life where I haven't been talking necessarily to a therapist about certain problems. I haven't been talking necessarily to my parents about certain problems. I've basically exclusively brought that content in a certain way to YouTube, weirdly. And that sounds really dumb, because YouTube is this open forum, talking to strangers on the internet. Like, why would that be a preferable choice, right? But it's this weird connection that I think all of us have with our audiences, where it's a parasocial relationship, right? We don't know our audiences personally, but they know so much about us. And so it's almost easier to speak out into that kind of void and sort of say like, yeah, for me, for example, a lot of the time it was university. I was like, guys, university is absolutely killing me right now. I'm going to have to upload less. It's really just like doing my head in. I'm super stressed. And I would kind of vent a little bit about it. And it would happen maybe like twice a year, most of the time around my exam periods. And for whatever reason, it would just help things so much to do that. And it sounds like there's maybe a similar parallel with you.
yeah, it's so beneficial. And I don't know, I guess maybe I stopped it because I'm having less problems in life. So maybe that's like a good
We love to hear that.
Yeah, but there is something about just sending that out into the void, but also knowing like it's just going to people that support you. It's this like really weird thing that I've always kind of like had this disconnect where I do it, where in my head it's almost like we're kind of crazy people. Like we just talk to this void and we get no like real true feedback for most of it. And I kind of came to learn like some of my friends from my real life, and I know some YouTubers, they listen to my podcasts. And so it's this deep look into how I'm feeling right now that I would never have that conversation in a million years with anyone in real life, mostly because it's so focused on just me. And like, you know, be like, well, this is how I feel and listen to me for an hour. But yeah, and then it was this moment that I realized a lot of people that I actually know listen to that. And so they know all these like deep thoughts about me. It was kind of, I don't know if it was concerning, but I just think for like the longest time in my head, it was like, this has no repercussions of putting this out here back to me. No one is going to view me any differently because like no one that I know like personally actually watches it.
Right.
But I guess in another way, it's good just because like people that listen, they're like, dude, yeah, like I can relate better to you now.
Oh, so much. And that was something I really found with my going away video that I posted last year, was that, I mean, in a lot of ways, that video was just another of the chain of those kind of videos that I've made over the years. And it was an especially kind of turbulent time in my life, I suppose. And so the video was talking about that sort of stuff, but it was in some ways just yet another, like a sequel to the last one that I had done maybe a year ago or so, around maybe Black Ops 4 or maybe a bit earlier with uni or something like that. And something that I found with that video as I put it up, and then I only really checked a lot of the responses and stuff genuinely about 6 months later in some cases. I had DMs from people, I had emails from people, I had loads and loads of comments, and there were a lot of people, both people I know and people I don't, saying like, damn dude, that sounds like it really sucks. I can totally relate. And it sucked for me too, but speaking from my own experience, I know that it gets better. Or people that have been saying, dude, I'm just stumbling on this video now 6 months later, and I'm in the same place. Can you share any advice? Can you give me any help? And it's tricky because as a creator, there is that complete difference in the relationship we have with our viewers compared to what relationship the viewer has with us. And so a viewer might know a huge amount about my life and be able to kind of extrapolate from that information and go, okay, well, I have a pretty good picture of who Milo is. Whereas with me, if I'm just reading an email and you're just sort of saying, hey, like, yeah, I've just gone through a really bad breakup, or I've just had someone in my family pass away and I'm finding it really difficult, there's not realistically anything I can really do to just jump in there off the back of one email and meaningfully help in some way, I don't think. I quite often will respond to sort of people like that and say like some kind of platitudes about like, I really hope it gets better. But realistically, if I'm getting a lot of those sort of types of emails, there's just not a lot that I can do. I'm only one guy, right?
No, exactly.
But there are a lot of people that are in that exact same boat, and there are friends that I've talked to that have had the same sort of stuff happen as well. And they were like, I'm really, really glad that you made the video and spoke about it the way you did, because it helped me kind of set things straight in my head with my situation too. And that's always just a completely unintended consequence, but quite often a consequence of those more kind of heartfelt pieces of content, I feel like.
There's such an interesting, like, you posted that video and to me, I find it's so fascinating that it got over 1 million views. And I don't say this in like a, whoa, you really did good with the algorithm, man. Like, I think it's like a testament to how much people like you and how well you are known in like the zombies community. And I think it's also a huge testament to, like you said, a lot of people feel bad and a lot of people feel like they're without direction. And to me, it says something like pretty powerful that many people watched your video.
Yeah, and I think that in some ways it was inevitable that a negative video would do better than a positive one. If I had at that time come out and said, hey, I'm having the best time of my life right now and I'm taking a break because I'm having so much fun and I've like got other opportunities or something, I don't think that would have done nearly as well. I think the fact that it was coming from a place of pain actually made it more of a I mean, as much as this can be said, like, successful video, and I am bunny earsing hard right now.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Like, not to say that and like, oh, it's sick, it got a lot of views, but just that like a lot of people could relate to it.
For sure. And so like, and I think that's totally natural. I mean, in terms of what drives people's motivation to click stuff, to watch stuff, to share stuff, to talk about stuff, the primary emotion that drives all of that stuff is anger, first of all. And beyond anger, you go down the list, and it's basically things that make people feel strongly. And you're more likely to see someone like myself upset and feel sympathy for them and feel strongly about that than you are to see me having a sick time, but off camera weirdly, and then be like, oh, well, I feel like amazing because he's doing really well, but I can't see it. Like, it's not the right kind of for that sort of thing to really connect in the same way, I think. So I definitely think that played into that, but it was really, I've got to say, it was really, really heartwarming. Not only the response on the day I posted it, just the sheer massive outpouring of support that I got from people, and the number of DMs from friends and from people I've worked with and all sorts, but then also coming back, the reaction to my return video and how incredibly positive that was, and the replies on Twitter and all of it, like, I was getting teary, man. It was a lot, because it's a weird world we live in as a creator. It's a weird space we occupy, because it is super important, and this is a lesson that I've had to learn through trial and error and experience over the years, and failing and getting back up again, that one of the core aspects of being a creator is that you, in a lot of ways, become your content, whether you like it or not. And I think that it's incredibly important to, even if that happens and when that happens, to maintain the fact that you internally in your head don't see yourself as the content. And what I mean by that is that, yes, you're making videos about your life. Yes, you're making videos about things that you enjoy, your hobbies, your interests, your passions, all those sorts of things. But it's a mistake, a massive mistake, to see that and then go one step further and see successes and failures of the channel and relate that back to yourself and say, therefore, I am better or I am worse at a given time. Dude, and it's a mistake that so many creators make. So many.
Creator, I feel
like. I mean, I think it is everyone where you see that 10 out of 10, your video's performing worse than all the other 9 on average that you've posted or whatever in the analytics, and you're like, damn, dude, I suck. Like, I just suck right now, and something that I've done is wrong. And it's tricky because, yes, something that you have done has caused the output of that video to maybe perform less well than it could, potentially. But also, maybe people have just gone back to school. Maybe there's some other factor, like there's been another game announced that day, or there's been a big release that day that's meant that video's done less well. But pretty much always with the creator, if you're always trying to better yourself and you've got high expectations for yourself and you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of the time you see the curve going down and you're like, well, that's on me. It must all be my fault, because holding yourself accountable is the only way to truly like get those big wins, I think, as well.
Yeah. I think like I have 2 things on that. Like the first thing I've said before is like a great analogy for YouTube is like you are just like a ship in the ocean. And there's people with really good ships that have worked and built a really good ship, and they're master sailors and they know how to take the winds. But ultimately, like, if there's no wind, it's really hard to move fast. And I think there are some anomalies on YouTube of people who like are witch doctors who have managed to like make their own wind. And those are like the Casey Neistats and like the Mr. Beasts of the world. Yep. But most of us on this platform are, you know, like I would say myself and you, we're kind of whipping up our own wins, but also a lot of it is, like you said, going to school, like people going back to school or summertime or whatever. It's kind of stuff that's out of your control, and you can only do the best to like take advantage of it. But the second thing is like an idea I've really been toying with a lot lately. And actually it's the book I recommended to you yesterday.
Cool. Okay.
The War of Art. And one of the things he talks about it is like the like where do creative thoughts come from? And his conclusion is that it's not really something that comes from people, but more so that creativity is something that is like channeled through you. And a lot of like very high level artists and people in extremely like creative places will often say, it's like a classic thing. I when I sit down and write or I sit down and make music, you know, some of my best ideas, they don't even feel like I came up with them. They just kind of came to me. And there's something cool in that too, is that your ideas aren't necessarily your own, or that like you have channeled this idea through you, but you didn't actually make it. And so like on the other side, I think there's like a good like bit of humility to just feel that you're not awesome because like you made this crazy huge video, because like when you're tying your success to that, like you said, and when it goes the opposite way, right? I think you have to be balanced on both sides. When things aren't going well, you need to not be tied to that creation, but also when things are going well.
Yeah, I think that it actually really links in super nicely, and there's 2 things I want to say to what you just said, because it's really, really, really interesting you just brought that up. But all of that links in with a conversation we had last night where I had posted a video at like 1 a.m, and I was like, yeah, I used to just basically be scared of YouTube analytics because I knew that they would make me feel bad. Like I knew that was a thing, and so I just avoided them, and I just sort of did what I thought was going to be good and stuck to my own course that way. But the difference now, I think, is that I'm looking at the highs and the lows a little bit more from a place of, this is data that I can learn from, rather than this is a traffic light system for whether I'm happy or sad. And treating it in that way, and taking that humility and that, like, being humbled by the fact that it isn't necessarily all you that's making these incredible things happen, and it's also not necessarily all you that's making the lowest of the lows happen, is kind of reflected in that mindset that I'm trying to have with my content going forward here, where some videos will perform less well and others will do really well. And ultimately, the outcome of that is that I know more about how YouTube works, and that means I can do my job better. So I'm winning, exactly. Either way. So there's that, but also that whole thing that you've just mentioned, and it sounds like I'm going to get a lot out of that book. I look forward to reading it.
The War, to anyone listening, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. This is a lot, but I'm weird. Like, I almost cried when I finished it.
Fair.
I was at the beach by myself. Like, I was on a family trip. My like, everyone left, and I was like, I have to finish this book. Like, it has gripped me. And dude, I finished it, and I just laid there for like 5 minutes and just kind of looked out.
Dude,
it really spoke to me as far as like being creative. So if there's anyone out there that is interested in creative endeavors, it basically talks about resistance, which is like he kind of calls it like this, and basically anything that stops you from working towards your goals. And then he notes on like creativity and kind of where creativity comes from.
Right.
So it's a really powerful book. Yeah.
So with that train of thought of how these thoughts just come to you, one thing that I have been exploring a lot more, and I never in a million years would have thought that I would be saying this, because I never thought that I would have been doing it in the first place. I'm a physics major, and here I am about to tell you about how my spiritual awakening has happened. But hear me out, dude. While I was away, started meditating. And of all the people on planet Earth, I thought I would be the last one to ever think that it was of any value whatsoever, okay? And I was wrong. I was very wrong.
Dude.
I had absolutely no idea how powerful it could be to take just a tiny slice out of your day and devote it to it sort of varies on a given day, but a lot of the time it's devoting it to doing nothing. It's devoting it to being present, being conscious of your consciousness, and just sort of being in the moment and really, really recognizing where you are and how you're receiving all these signals that your body is constantly sort of processing in order for you to experience the world. But it's so powerful a mechanism to just feel good, really, and to be more grateful for everything that's going on in your life, and to appreciate the moments you have with your family more, and just all these things, right? And a lot of the thinking that I've been doing around that, or certainly a chunk of it, has been to do with free will. That's a big topic in it all. And so the sort of thing that you're saying about how these thoughts are described by these super creative people as things that just come to them, and they're almost a conduit for those thoughts as opposed to the generator of them, is really interesting to me, because it aligns in a lot of ways with certainly my stance on free will, and what I think is a well-reasoned stance, which is that in a lot of ways we don't actually have free will. Like, I don't think that that's really a thing that manifests in humans, and I think that it would be a separate conversation to work that back too much here. But
yeah, that's a deep. I'm familiar with like the main arguments for like right. Determinism and all that, but and so I
don't
know how deep we want to go, but yeah, I mean,
maybe we save that for episode 2. But like the thing that's interesting to me is that undeniably regardless of what you feel about in that sort of more generalized sense, if you examine your own thoughts and you sit with yourself and you just consider what you are thinking at a given time, I think that across the human race, we would all agree that thoughts come into our head and we do not cause them to come into our head. They just come into our head. Like, that is just a thing that happens. If you're sitting down, thought itself manifests on its own. It just does it. And like, I can be told, okay, the number 3, for example, think about the number 3, this weird, like, abstract thing, or I can think about something very real. Think about an apple, and I can conjure that thought into my head, yes, but it's like a series of steps that when you trace back doesn't actually, in my opinion at least, come from some tangible human-generated impetus. Like, that is not the cause of that thought. And that is massively true for creative work as well, I think, where when I'm thinking of YouTube video ideas, for example, which, like, to go from, yo, free will, dude, is, like, not real, dude, and then go, let's talk about YouTube video ideas. Like, maybe it's a bit of a contrast change, but with something like that, which is a creative task that I have to do in my medium, and you do the same, I'm not really being, like, I'm being creative in that moment, but I'm tapping into that thought stream that is just running in my head. And that's why I think it's so important to read a lot of books and watch a lot of different types of media and get a lot of conversations in with your fellow creators and do all these things that round out your human experience, because all of that is nourishing that thought stream that's just firing off all the time. And the more kind of bricks that you've put into that foundation of building up like what's going on in your headspace, the more ammunition you have to fire off some really cool thoughts and tap into those and notice those and acknowledge them and go, all right, yep, that works, and we can turn that into a video and then work on the idea from there. It's something that I have just found so incredibly liberating and interesting over the last maybe 6 months now that I've been meditating daily.
Man, I am so happy for you.
It's great.
Like,
it's so
is
good.
So awesome. It's kind of weird because I've always believed, like, meditation is crazy. I started doing yoga when I was 16 and I found the benefits of that. And then through there, I kind of found meditation. But I think we probably started consistently meditating at around the same time. For me, it was actually the start of the whole pandemic. I just wanted to take on a new good habit, and I thought meditation was something that's only like 10, 20 minutes a day. Anyone has 10 to 20 minutes a day, you know? And dude, again, for me, it's completely changed everything. I find I try to do 2 sessions a day. Cool. I find the one in the morning, what it does is it like takes my awareness, and I think of I almost sometimes imagine it, my vision, and it's like my vision is my whole view, and it's like that's where my mind is right now. It's everywhere. It's wandering, and there's so much vision. And when I meditate, it's like it just closes in, and I feel like laser focus, and I feel like I have more of an ability to choose what I want to focus on. So maybe not necessarily. Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like maybe not. I don't want to say like I'm not aware of all those things around me, but it makes me able to like choose what I want to put my effort into, rather than being distracted and being like, okay, I'm on my phone. Like, let's put that away.
Right. I think that is one of the most powerful outcomes of it, is being constantly reflective of what you are experiencing at a given time and not being distracted by the world. And it's been a big thing for me with social media, for example, where it's so easy for every waking moment of your day where you're not doing something else to be on your phone, on Twitter, scrolling, doom scrolling, right? Where you're just looking for things to get annoyed about. Like, that's just what people do during the pandemic. And so by meditating every day, what I've found that I'm more able to do is I'm more able to walk into a room and not have something to do in that room necessarily, but to walk into that room and to make an actual conscious decision not to do that, or to notice myself doing it and go, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm going to choose not to in this moment, and I'm going to do something else. Or to feel an unwanted thought come into my head, and instead of being like, oh no, that's really bad, and like panic about the fact that I'm thinking about something negative or I'm upset about something, to just take a step back from my own thought there and go, all right, there's a thought, point at it, sort of look at it and go, all right, it's there, and now it's gone. Because genuinely, when you examine those kind of negative thoughts that come into your head and those negative habits and tendencies and things, a lot of the time, if you're able to get that little second of perspective to just look at it and go, all right, I'm acknowledging you, there you are, more often than not, it tends to be incredibly easy to deal with that going forward. Whereas if you let yourself get caught up in it and distracted by it, then from that point on, you're already in the vortex. And so it's much harder to break out.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel that the intent for your focus and being able to choose what you're focused on and almost choose what not to be distracted by, I think is how I would maybe describe it, is really an outcome that I've really found and experienced, and it's been really revolutionary for me.
I think you make a really good point though on the idea that our ideas aren't us, and I think more people need to understand that.
Yeah.
Is that we have thoughts that just pop into our head, and they're not necessarily like our beliefs. I mean, I find sometimes, are you ever in like a situation where your brain just jumps to like, what's the most like awkward thing I could do right now? Or like, I don't know, like you're walking across graduation and it's like, what if I just like, did something like absolutely like ridiculous,
So one thing I get similar to that is I'll be on a tall building and I'll think, what if I just jumped off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's one I get for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important, like, people should recognize, like, just because a thought pops into your head doesn't necessarily mean it's you, and it's not your identity. You have the choice to examine it and think, is what's the value in this thought? Do I choose to align with this or not? And I think that even goes further, that people attach ideas to their sense of self-worth to the point where if you don't agree with an idea, people take that as an attack on them. And that's a dangerous thing, because then you get to this point where you're not really willing to open yourself up to new ideas and new possibilities that maybe you're wrong, because if you're wrong, you are wrong. It's not the idea is wrong. Right. I mean, we don't have that separation. And in my podcast, sometimes I'll just explore ideas that I don't even necessarily agree with, but it's fun to do. And I think it's good to have that ability to explore a thought that isn't necessarily something you align with.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that it's something that more and more with Twitter and social media and the internet and stuff like that is lost on people, that like I'll see people on Twitter and they just get on there to argue, right? And I use Twitter mostly pretty passively to just sort of look at the world and be like, all right, it's still terrible, but I want to just kind of keep an eye on it, I guess. And I really, really am sad for humanity when I see, like, let's say it's a political pundit and they tweet something out and they could be on the right or on the left or central or who knows where, and they could tweet something out and you instantly get no meaningful discussion at all, just this like complete torrent of abuse, right? And the sad thing for me is that it's a misunderstanding, I think, on everyone's part, because the people that are just sending the abuse, obviously that's not going anywhere, right? It's just abuse. Abuse isn't nice. But also, it's got to the point now where even the people approaching in good faith in those replies end up sort of sucked up into that cycle of insane negativity and whataboutery and straw man arguments and everything. No one's really operating in good faith anymore, I feel like, on Twitter. And it means that you end up in a scenario where even someone who rationally wants to just explore an idea and they're not sure of their own beliefs and they want your opinion on it and they want to have a decent, honest conversation, human to human, they end up looking like someone that might as well be a bot in a factory somewhere that's like made out of iron. Like they might as well just be a completely spoofed human being, because I think a lot of us are really conditioned to just assume the worst in all those replies, and so we end up doing so, and it just harms the discourse in a really big way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think social media is ever going to be a place where we can realistically have meaningful conversations, certainly from my point of view as like I guess a public figure on the platform, because I'm faced with so many people every day that are just trying to tear me down, and it's like, okay, I'm going to therefore build up an expectation that people are trying to tear me down. Why would I engage rationally and let myself get hurt over and over again, rather than just basically like shutting the door and saying, nope, sorry, we're closed for new customers and I'm not interested in having this conversation right now. I think it's sad that that's the way things are, but it's just the sort of the nature of the internet, I think, in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
And I worry for where that is going in the future, because I mean, more and more we're seeing so much division in politics and in society in general, really, and the way forward for a lot of the issues that are facing the planet right now, whether it's something like COVID-19 or whether it's something like actually, you know what, note to the editor, let's not say COVID-19 because it could demonetize.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so whether it's something like the global illness we're sort of looking at right now, whether it's the political spectrum that everyone is kind of bouncing around at a rate of knots right now, or like the election coming up or whatever it might be, all those sorts of things, really, in order to make a lot of progress, climate change too, like we need to have a kind of unified approach to a lot of it, I think, in order to really make meaningful ground. And it's going to be tough to get there when everyone is shouting at each other. Yeah, man. People just need to be more compassionate, more open. Yeah. Just have an honest conversation with your neighbors, dude. It's the way forward.
People
have a chat with them one day.
People aren't bad, and I think a lot of the time, yeah, we take. There's a great quote that it's something along the lines of, don't attribute to malice what could just be ignorance or something like that. And it's just the idea that no one really, when you do something, no one really takes an action to think, I'm going to screw this person over, or I'm going to be the bad guy here. A lot of the time when we do things, we're just being stupid.
The thing is, I reckon that quote was spoken into existence before the internet.
Yeah, true.
I really do.
I mean, certainly trolls and all that exists, absolutely. And people, yeah, man. And it's funny because like that book I was talking about, and he talks about resistance. That would be, he would define that as resistance. It's like, what are you doing on Twitter? You're wasting your time. Okay, what you should be doing is working towards whatever that goal is in the back of your head that you're avoiding, that thing that you haven't started yet, that thing that drives you, but instead you're just on Twitter spouting whatever. Yeah. Right? It's just
a lot of whatever.
it's not a good use of your hours in your day.
Right.
And I think I spend too much time on Twitter, but I'm aware of it enough to not engage as well.
So just to jump in real quick there. Yeah. You know what I've done recently to combat that? So I got rid of the Twitter app on my like home page on my phone. So it's still on my phone. I can still open Twitter. That's fine. It's not a problem. But it's not on that first page where I spend most of my time. Yeah. And instead, I've replaced it with Duolingo. So now reflexively, whenever I go to my phone and I open that homepage to go to Twitter, I start learning Spanish instead. And it's such a productive, nice, fun thing to do. And it's like, I'm walking into a room, I need something to like fiddle with or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, Twitter would be a great option. Actually, no, Spanish would be a great option here. It's great. I love it. It's so good.
I think that's productive. What was I going to say? I'm trying to take those precautions too. I actually deleted Twitter off of like the PC I'm on right now, like this desktop that I do all my work at. You think Twitter is for my job. Of having it on anything, you'd think it would be have it on here.
Right.
But I find it is the biggest distraction for work because I'm writing a script and what's on Twitter? Boop.
Yep.
And I removed it from my toolbar or my whatever bar.
Bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Yeah. And it's like that I just developed the habit of searching it into my URL, just TW, and then it comes up.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I don't need it on here. And I haven't had it in months, and I don't mind it at all. If I need to tweet something, usually when I work, I try to put like my phone right now. You can't see it on my screen, but it's over there on the carpet. It's not even on my desk. And I usually like to leave it there when I work. So same thing goes for Twitter. If I really need to tweet something, again, I was like, do we really need to ever tweet anything? I don't know. Yeah, it's for your job, and like having a brand awareness on everything is important. But anyway,
I don't think YouTube would be meaningfully, I don't think either of our YouTube videos would be meaningfully affected if we weren't on Twitter. It would be the wider industry relations and things like that.
Yeah,
right?
that's very true.
That's what I worry about if I was to not use Twitter at all. My favorite use of it is communicating with the people that I follow and work with in the industry on a daily basis and who are my friends, right?
Yeah.
I use it a lot for DMs with other creators and things like that. And also to some extent to keep up with news, but I'm not really replying to the news. I'm just sort of looking at it.
Yeah.
And so I would be sad to see the industry networky function of it go if I was to stop using it entirely. But you can get 90% of that value out of 10% of the time, honestly.
Yeah.
And so just cutting that down is like, well, it's mostly the same. Like I'm still getting it, so it's fine for me.
Yeah, I try to. Again, I mean, it's not like we can really leave Twitter because our industry is
because we've sold our souls. You can say it. It's we sold our souls to the devil, the blue bird,
the blue bird, yeah,
the blue devil, dude.
I think the blue devil is better than the multicolored whatever Instagram devil is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Instagram's just look at me,
yeah.
Look what I did this weekend. I did it.
Right.
Look at I did this.
I'm really interested in Instagram for the reason that for a reason that Twitter doesn't really interest me so much, and that's that I would like to do more photography. I really enjoy it. I think it's really fun, and I think that Insta's definitely a better place to use as a sort of repository for that sort of thing. Yeah. And one thing that I don't know if you've ever really dabbled with much photography at all yourself, but one thing I've really noticed about it when I'm out and about taking photos is there's a similar headspace that I end up in when I'm doing that photography work to when I'm meditating. And it's like this real intention to be present in the moment and to see everything around me through a lens that isn't just I am going to the shop, and so it doesn't matter what's to my left and to my right, I am going to the shop. But instead, I'm out on a photography trip or whatever, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I might be going somewhere, but I want to see everything on my way there. I want to take it all in. I want to experience everything here in case from the right angle, or in case if I cross the road or the lighting changes or whatever, I might end up finding a perfect photo. And that's been a really interesting discovery for me, is just sort of really paying attention to the world in a way that I don't normally. So I've really been enjoying that.
That's really neat. Yeah. I actually thought you were going to go the other way, where you say you find when you want to take a photo, it's like the same. Like I know for vloggers, a big problem is not really being able to enjoy any moment because you're always thinking about getting the shot. And so glad I don't vlog for that reason. Like honestly, gaming is like a gaming YouTuber, I think, is one of the best formulas for being like an online creator. You can do everything from your home. Just the lifestyle around it, right? That's the biggest thing. You can do everything from your home. It's here. It's in this little nice little box. I will say I don't know about streaming. I don't think I'd want to be a Twitch streamer. That's like, dude, it is soul consuming.
it's a grind. It's a massive grind. But this is the thing, right? I think what you're saying is more an indicator that you're in the right place than that this is the right place.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
I think that if I was more inclined to travel for all my work, for example, then being a game creator would suck. It would really suck.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think that while Twitch, definitely, I'm not trying to undermine it and say like, oh, it's easy if you like doing it or anything like that. Twitch is a grind. It's a massive grind, and so is streaming on other platforms too. But especially with the way that subs work and stuff on Twitch, it's tough. It's not easy, right? But it's definitely not hell for people that really love doing it, right? Whereas from the outside, it can look like it would be hell no matter what, because it's like, what? I have to stream for 12 hours a day and I can never take a day off and all this sort of thing. But for some people, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily the way to go. I'm not saying you should stream every day. Please don't do that. Take breaks, for goodness sake. But for some people, that is ideal. It really depends on you, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the one thing I will say with Twitch though is I just wonder how like you can do that in a long-term way. Like I get it, you know, 5 years, you can grind something for 5 years, but if that's like what you want to do for the rest of your life, I know I wouldn't want to do that. And maybe that's just me looking at it from my view, but yeah, it's a lot, man. It's streaming is a lot. And you know, even if with YouTube, if it was like, I definitely don't put in as many hours to YouTube as a lot of streamers do. Even if I did, I would personally prefer YouTube just because I can control those hours a little bit better. I can say, okay, well, I'll put in all my hours Monday through Friday and then I have the weekend off or whatever sort of formula I want to do. But yeah, I just find that like you have to show up almost pretty much every day. Maybe like, I don't know what most Twitch streamers do, but like at least 5 days a week. I guess it's a pretty regular thing. But
that's the thing with Twitch is it's definitely more focused on having a schedule, having a rhythm, being live for like as many hours as you can really muster in a day a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And while some streamers that I follow do definitely do a very fixed kind of rhythm of I'll do a 3-hour stream here, like a 3-hour stream in the morning, 5-hour stream in the afternoon, and that'll be my work day kind of thing. And it works for them. It totally works, and that's great. And I think also what's cool is that you can have lower viewership on Twitch relative to YouTube and earn more money because the pathways for monetizing on that platform through subscriptions and through Prime and through donations and all that sort of stuff is better established than it is on YouTube right now. So that's cool in itself too. Those people make it work, and that's great for them.
Man, I love that. I love how Twitch is so doable as a career.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
it makes me happy. You don't have to have 3 million subscribers to, you know.
Yeah. It really makes me glad that is possible at lower viewership, because it means that other platforms will have to really get their acts together as well in order to be able to match that. And that's going to be good competition for everyone. Yeah. So like, I'm excited to see how YouTube keeps trying to make their live services better. I'm also interested to see how Twitch deals with the fact that it is maybe even not profitable. I don't know if Twitch is profitable because it's such a massive server cost to keep everyone's streams running and keep all that data held at all times. And the ads that play on Twitch make no money and they play really infrequently. And so, yes, you've got products like Bits, for example, where Twitch takes a cut, but realistically speaking, the infrastructure that goes into making the entire site run is a massive cost in itself. And so I think that they're going to have to figure out some better monetization models. And I think that's why, as of this week, we've seen Twitch making a change where now they play mid-rolls on viewers' streams if the creator hasn't run a mid-roll ad themselves in the last X amount of time.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of controversy about that, and rightly so, because it totally takes the power out of the creator's hand for when they want to roll an ad. And it's like the creator is being disincentivized to not run ads, instead of incentivized to run ads, because the creator still makes basically no money from the ads. So that needs to change. But those sorts of systems, I think, are in response to the fact that Twitch is in a bit of a uncertain place for how they will best monetize right now. And that's going to be interesting to see how that evolves in the next sort of year or so as well, for sure.
Yeah. I think I think they need to do ads. I mean, I'm not a business person, so maybe there's a smarter way to do it. But yeah, it seems like they didn't nail it right now.
Yeah. This change certainly has got a lot of people up in arms, and it's going to take some work to figure
out.
Because
I just think, like, what if you're in this crazy moment, crazy intense, like you're about to win a game? I'm sure that's...
It happened yesterday. I don't know if you saw the clip, but during the Sony reveal, there was the Harry Potter game, right? That's been like leaked and teased and rumored for years.
By the way, so excited for that.
Hell yeah, dude. And so that trailer came on, and a guy starts reacting to it on his stream, and then an ad for like Subway or something came up, and it was like, what? Like, hello, I'm trying to react to this thing I've been waiting for 6 years, dude, and there's an ad for sandwiches? Like, come on. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty clear indicator that they need to work on the product a bit better.
Yeah. And just to preface this, like, I have so much respect for people who stream, because I recognize what a grind it is, and streaming is exhausting too. You have to be on. So exhausting. So you're so on. It's a big reason why I stopped. It's just too much.
It's a certain kind of tiredness. Can you agree with me on that? It's
my God, it's so specific. I can't even. There's nothing I do that has that type of drained after like a huge stream. It's a mental fatigue for sure. But it's not the same as like like studying for a really long time. I don't know. It's
so, like, I used to at uni. I used to at times be like grinding out, doing my like hardcore revision schedule for. I mean, I would get to the library sometimes, some days, when it opened at 8 a.m. and I would leave when it when it closed at midnight. Like, and I would just do that day after day after day after day after day. And so that was like a very, very intense rhythm. But I think what makes that bearable is that I would say to myself, like, all right, if I need a break, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to go walk around the block, and then I'm going to come back. And it's going to take 3 minutes, but it's going to be a break. Whereas on stream, even if you are running an ad and taking a break, even if you're quickly like running to the bathroom, even if you're grabbing a sandwich from another room, whatever it might be, you know that you're still live, and in your room, all your lights are still on, and you know that like your room is getting a bit warm because you've been streaming for a while, and your viewers are like excited for the next thing, and you're thinking about the content, and you're still switched on. You don't switch off in the breaks. Like, you don't have enough time to. And I think that means that, exactly like you said, that being on state that you're in, being turned on and ready to just create and to entertain, totally saps the life out of you in such a big way. And like every time, no matter whether my stream is an hour long or 8 hours long, I'll get off and I will be dead. I'll be so dead.
And it's interesting too, because like right now we're not doing this live, and if we were doing this live, we would be more in that zone. But I think knowing, okay, if we screw up, we can just edit that out. Like, you know, there's something about the live state. Yeah, it's just, and I think talking, it's like just you're using your brain in that certain way that it's talking
without messing up.
And
not letting yourself lose that. Like earlier on in the conversation, there was a train of thought that I was having, and I was speaking, and I lost it mid-sentence. And I was like, right, I have to make a decision here. Either I have to just keep talking and hope that the right words come out, which is a risk, or I can just take a pause and we're not live. So I can chill for a minute and be like, oh yeah, that was it, and then keep going. In that case, I just kept going and the right words came out, so I was fine. But in that live context, you can't really make that decision. Like, or at least it feels like you can't. A lot of the time you can just mess up, but you want to provide a glitchless conversation. You want to provide that perfect experience where you don't constantly go and like mess up your words or whatever it might be. And yeah, that pressure, I think, means that it's definitely a lot more tiring, for sure.
Yeah.
But something that... go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, like, talking's kind of a weird thing. And it kind of relates back to that idea of free will and, like, determinism and stuff that... Okay, when you're going to say a sentence, like that sentence that I just said right there, you don't think about the entire sentence and say it. You kind of have the concept of the sentence in your head and the idea that you're trying to present. But I feel as though the words come almost one at a time, and it's improvisation. I don't know. It's just an interesting idea. I sometimes think is sometimes go ahead.
As you were saying that, all I could think about was, have you heard of like speech jamming?
No.
So I think it's called speech jamming. It's when someone is talking and you either say back what they're saying or you have like a slight delay on like a recording. So for example, let's say you were monitoring your input in OBS, right?
Yeah.
And every word you said, half a second later, it would play it back. It is incredibly difficult to talk through that because your brain like lags and it gets caught on every word you say. If it's a live signal, if every word you say is constantly played back the exact second you're saying it, it's fine because your brain's used to that. You hear your own voice all the time. But when there's a like half second delay, it is so difficult. And so like if you were talking now, it might not work because of the lag. But if I just repeated every word that you said to you, there's a good chance you would just stop talking. Like your brain just can't do it.
Yeah.
Which is just a really interesting...
Our words aren't as I don't know.
We're not as in control as we think.
Yeah, exactly. There, I didn't have the words for that one, but okay, I wanted to just switch gears a little bit here because this was the one thing I did really want to talk about. So you made that huge video, and you left YouTube for I think it was 9 months. Took a 9-month break.
9 months. Yep. God, that's weird.
So I guess I'll relay this into my personal experiences because I did something kind of similar, but much smaller scale, where I was gone for 2 months.
Yes.
I felt with myself on YouTube, I was stuck in a rhythm. I got into Fortnite and it was good. And then eventually it got to a point where it was no longer good. And I didn't know how to break myself from that. It was just this thing of trying to satisfy a number of views that I had been accustomed to and not really putting out content that I particularly cared about.
You were feeding the beast.
It's just feeding the beast. Yeah. Yep. And, so to me, it was this thing is like, I just need to get away and just step back from YouTube. I've never had a time to do this. And so for me in my travels, like I think a lot of people say, oh, I need to go on a travel to like find myself. I've talked about this a little bit that I found it to be very good for me. As a step back, but I guess my question is like, how did your travels go, and do you think it allowed you to figure out like the next thing for you, you know, like we were saying about that whole idea of not knowing where to go in life? Because for me, I didn't feel like traveling really made me realize like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And a lot of people say that like I found myself when I traveled. To me, I almost feel like it just made me appreciate the things I already do. But I don't know.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's almost like I didn't find myself, I lost myself. So I think that I, in a lot of ways, got into a place where I was not feeling how Milo normally feel. Like I was in a really dark place. And what I think going away allowed me to do is to basically be so distracted by the fact that I was hurtling down a mountain that I didn't have time to think about that. I had to think about not dying. And that was really useful. And in a lot of ways, it was like I was burying my head in the sand, I think. But I needed to just be able to breathe, to just catch my breath, because I was drowning for quite a long time. And I just needed a little bit to just help me keep going. And it was only once I got back and started the meditation and talked to a therapist and a whole variety of other things that I really, I think, began to make meaningful progress towards dealing with some of those negative places that I had been kind of lingering in that previous year. So it was, the traveling for me was very much, I traveled to lose my old self rather than to find my new one. Ooh, I think that that new self that I am always looking for is never going to happen, because it's kind of always going to be a work in progress. At any given time, I'm always going to be looking for who I'm going to be next year, sort of thing, and I'm not going to know until I get there, and then I'll be looking for the year after that. So I definitely don't think that I went away and found answers, for example, which a lot of people say, like they like go to the mountains and they sort of get a lot of insight about what's going on, and they're like, okay, I've figured out my path forever now. I don't think that really happens.
No. Yeah. Okay.
No matter what the alchemist might tell you. I think that in a lot of ways, certainly me, speaking to my own experience, I am too changeable. I will fixate on one thing for like 2 weeks, and then I will fixate on another thing. So I will take piano lessons for 2 weeks, and I will learn what someone learns on the piano in 6 months in those 2 weeks. Like I'll learn really fast because that's something I'm really good at, just as a general thing with me. And then I'll put it down again and won't touch the piano again for another 3 months. And then I'll take up some other hobby, like trampolining I got really into. Trampolining I would still be doing if stupid global illness hadn't got in the way of it. But that was another thing where it was like, you know what, I just feel like really doing this right now. I'm going to do it. And there have been so many things, whether it's reading a book. If I can get that book read within that 2 week kind of window, then that's great. I've finished it, that's sorted. But if I don't, there's a good chance it's going to take me 8 months to finish it, because at that point I've moved on.
I feel that so much with books.
Right.
Got like five books sitting next to my bed right now.
Yep, and I've got even more on a list on Goodreads that I'm like, I would love to read all of you, but I just need to be in the right headspace. Just give me time, and I'll get there, I promise. But that's a thing with me. I know that I'm really incredibly focused when I'm focusing on something, but when my attention switches, then I'm really focused on the next thing, and juggling the two at the same time is something that I have to have really the right circumstances set up for. So I was good at it at uni, but at uni, I would spend 90% of my time sort of day to day focusing on YouTube. And then whenever I had to do stuff for uni to make sure that I got that first that I got, I would 100% switch to it and not think a single thought about YouTube. But it was very binary. There was not really any blend going on there. And so I think because of that, looking to the future, it's like I would love to find the next thing. But I think for me, in a lot of ways, the only way I'm going to find that is if I keep flitting between these different ideas, different subjects, different areas. And then if one of them gets to the 2 week mark and I'm like, you know what? I fancy another 2 weeks. Like, that's the only way I'm going to know that I'm going to stick on something for more time than that, really.
Oh, okay. So, cool.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep trying stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like the best advice you can give anyone who's trying to figure their thing out is like, do stuff.
Yeah. And do stuff that you would never expect yourself to like. Because a lot of the time, that's how you find what you do really like.
Yeah.
Like, you think you know what you like, but actually, you try trampolining and you're like, damn, this is really fun, dude. And then you start doing trampolining. Like, I, in school, joined a fencing club, weirdly, which is super weird for me because I am not of the social class of people that would normally be fencing at all, by any means. But I joined this club, and I'm pretty sure there was an Olympic fencer that first day that I was there, and he basically said to one of my friends, like, yeah, this guy could be like the next Olympic talent for fencing. And I was like, all right, like, that's cap. Like, that's not happening. But he said this, and I started getting into it and was like, you know what? I was sort of doing this just because it was a thing that was happening like after school at my school or something. And I really, really got into it. And in that case, I would never have tried it had I not been like, I'm just going to do something I think I'm going to dislike to see what happens. I ended up not pursuing it after a while, but it was really cool to know that that was something I enjoyed at the time. And you never know until you try with a lot of sort of things. So yeah. Highly recommend just doing stuff.
Do stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to be. Eventually though, you need to find a thing to stick to. That's the only thing. And I mean, I'm not saying like, hey Milo, you better find that thing in the next month, because but I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's I guess it's everyone's their own person, and they'll figure it out.
Can I tell you a story about Jason Blundell?
Sure, yeah.
I was in LA with Jason Blundell at this point 3 years ago, I think. And we had met up for, I don't know if it was a DLC event or if it was an E3, I don't remember, right? But we'd met up and we were hanging out. And we had already talked loads about zombies, and me and him would talk about zombies forever. Like, you wouldn't be able to stop us. We would just keep talking, right? But we had that day not really been talking about zombies at all, and we were just talking about life. And it was really interesting because I don't know exactly how old Jason is, but he told me about his career history, and he told me about the kind of rough direction that he'd taken early on when he was getting into games, and how that had progressed and things like that. And I was then also talking about the fact that I was at uni and I was doing physics and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that he said to me, and I can remember the street that we were on when he said it, I'm pretty sure, that has stuck in my mind ever since, is that, and I'm gonna obfuscate names here because I don't know if he'd want me to mention specifics, but there was someone that he was really close with, and they had, for a very, very long time in their career, been like a jack of all trades. They'd always done everything really well. So they could go to any subject, any area of whatever they were doing, and they would always have some experience there and be accomplished and able, right? And he, as a kind of contrast to that, had basically made the decision that he wanted to get really good at one specific thing, right? And what he had found is that in the long term, that narrowing down of the focus down to one specific thing had massively paid off for him in his experience. And this other person had really ended up finding that because they were jack of all trades and master of none, it had kind of held them back in getting to the real peaks of their career that they were really wishing they could have got to. And so his advice to me was essentially, when you go to school, right? Like, you do your GCSEs in the UK, then you do your A-levels, then you go to uni. I'm sure in Canada you have a similar system where you're doing a lot of subjects and then you narrow it down and you do a smaller handful of subjects, and then you go to uni and you do 1 or 2 subjects, right? Yeah. That funnel exists there for a reason. There's a lot of flaws in the higher education system, don't get me wrong, but the funnel is there because if you do specialize, more often than not, that's going to put you in a better position to be the best at what you do, or the best at what you do at your company, or what have you. Whereas if you just do everything, you are always going to be faced with the fact that other people are either going to be equally good at what you're doing or better. And so his advice to me was like, Milo, you are very broadly talented right now. Like, I am sort of skilled in lots of different areas, but it would probably help me a lot in my career if I drilled down into one particular area and just pushed there. And it stuck with me because I don't know a lot of people in the game space and the tech space and things like that have had the tenure of experience that he's had, that have said to me, like, you know what, if all the things were considered, that's the piece of advice I would give you. But at the time, that's what he said. And I think that it rings true in this conversation here because, yes, absolutely, I think I need to sort of keep trying stuff and finding like new passions and stuff like that. But there is definitely a train of thought or a system of thought, as Jason echoed on that day, that at some point you need to pick, you need to choose. And ideally you'll know when you're making the right choice. Yeah. But it certainly helps to sort of get there. And so I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm keeping my eyes peeled for sure. Always.
Yeah.
All the time.
Dude, that's so interesting. 'Cause like over the last year, I've been like dipping my toes more and more into music. And like that's a question I ask myself. I'm like, is this the thing?
Yeah.
And there's so much self-doubt because I mean there's a million things. I mean the first thing that comes to mind is like, well, I've been doing YouTube since I was 12. Like thinking about the journey of my life in almost a story type way, like isn't it the thing that you have been passionate about since like you were a kid? Isn't that the thing you pursue? And so then it's like, okay, well maybe it'll always be YouTube. Maybe that'll always be my thing. And then there's another side of me that says, well, maybe that was a thing, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a thing forever, and we move on.
Yeah. And that I think is a real key. Real key.
Yeah. And I mean, I've always been someone to not stay comfortable. I mean, I don't want to be doing the same thing forever. And I think that's certainly a big reason why I've been excited about music, is because it's something that's so new. And I think a year ago, I remember myself thinking there's not enough in the YouTube space where I don't think there's anything I could achieve. Like I think I could be Mr. Beast in 10 years and I still might not feel like excited. Like that doesn't even really excite me that much.
Yep, I know what you mean.
Totally. I think I would still feel like, okay, I'm still in this same, like, dare I say, like algorithm of creation and the same space. And thinking about it in that sense, it's like, well, then music, on the other hand, I look at it and it is this giant world of stuff to learn. And it is something I look at in 10 years and be like, wow, I could put 10 years of my life into this and still have so much to learn. Right.
Or you could get 10 years in and go, that was all super valuable, but now I'm going to find another. And that would be no loss. That's the really cool thing about it. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think for me, even just having this conversation right now is awesome to frame it in this way, is like, I think if I just were to do YouTube for the next 10 years, I don't know how much I'm really going to grow as a person if that's all I continue to work at. Because I mean, I'm not Mr. Beast, but I think I've at least hit that like 80-20 rule.
Success.
Yeah, exactly. And I know this game, if you want to call it a game. And I've gotten so much out of it, you know, like I've had those highs of like, you just feel like you're on top of the world, you know? And so, I think there's a huge part of me that just thinks like, maybe there's going to come a time when there's going to be the next thing. And I guess it's just, is it music, or like, will it be something else? And
the most difficult part of all of it is being able to see that opportunity and going, yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Just saying yes and jumping in and being committed. Because like you said, you get all those thoughts in your head, all those doubts, all those, oh, what if I'm mistaken? What if I fall out of love with this in 6 months and then I've wasted 6 months, and all these things, right, that come into your head and start telling you otherwise. But one of the biggest skills I think you can have in life is to recognize opportunity when it's in front of you. And people that are good at that are really successful because they jump on things and then they ride those waves. And when they don't work, when those waves crash and burn, just like a YouTube video in a weird way that has not necessarily performed as you might have hoped it would have done, they treat that as data to inform their next guess, their next best sort of hope for whatever their next wave they're going to ride is going to be. So sometimes you just got to really commit. And committing to a wrong idea is more powerful than not committing, I think.
Yes. So. Oh my God. My friend told me this the other day. She was saying like, you know, you can be like 27 and not have a degree. Be like, well, it's too late for me, you know, because I'm going to be, you know, done at, like, have my degree at 31. It's like, or you could just be 31.
Right. Yeah.
And that stuck with me, you know. I was like, damn. But I don't know, dude. Like, I think it's been, for me, the last year of learning guitar specifically has been this thing of like continuing to dip my toes in. And as I get more proficient in it and as I learn more, I do more. So I think really like, it was about a year ago where I kind of had this like revelation of like, oh my God, like this is kind of what I think I might want to do.
Yeah.
And then I would say call it maybe 10 months ago where I actually got my shit together and started committing to that. But you know, it started out with like, okay, I want to practice guitar for 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
And then I got back from Europe and I was like doing 1 hour. I was like, this is not really enough. So
it's like I could crank it up and I'd be happy.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, let's try 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, it's like turned into 2 as a minimum, but I'd be happy with like 4.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that's a really cool thing, dude, because it's like, I don't feel like I'm progressing linearly. It's like, I keep increasing the effort I'm putting in, but also because I'm learning how to learn, it's so much better now.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I don't know.
Key, man.
But it's
key. That's what we talked about last night, right? Like
a
little bit of that conversation last night was about.
Yeah. And of all people, Kevin Sherwood giving me advice on how to learn guitar. Like, what? Dude, I'm so lucky.
Yeah, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And Kevin's a legend. Kevin's such a nice guy.
Awesome, man.
I have so much respect for that man.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a scary thing, but right now I feel like I have 1 foot in like order and 1 foot in chaos. And that's kind of a cool place to be. Like, I have YouTube and I'm still doing it because I do like it. And I don't think the idea of like, just quit your job and go for your dreams is a good idea. Because I think that's too much chaos and you're not going to feel secure in it, or at least not yet, you know?
I mean, it sounds like to make an analogy to the, or make a reference to the book that I haven't read yet, it sounds like in your frame of viewing things, that would be too much resistance to what you want to do because you'd be then worrying about too much stuff. Like, how can I support myself and all those things rather than the creative stuff you want to do, right?
Exactly. So it's like I'm grounded in order with a secure job that gives me flexibility, but I'm exploring this new thing. So
right. And that's what I loved about doing YouTube alongside my degree was that both, I think that's in their own way, were the order and the chaos. One was the order for the other's chaos and vice versa.
Man, I think we share that because I know both of us really enjoyed doing our degree, and I was so happy to have YouTube as a side thing. Yeah. If you want to call YouTube a side thing.
I'm so glad I didn't quit the degree and go full time. I'm so happy. It's one of the best decisions one of the best gambles I've ever made, honestly.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Man.
But that's not to say, because I know that there's a chance someone in the comments is going to be like, oh, that means that I have to go to university. Higher education, especially in the current year, 2020 and onwards, is a different landscape to where it was every year in the past, and you have to evaluate it for yourself. I get asked this so often in stream chats, in emails, all sorts of stuff. People come to me and they say, hey, Milo, like, I know you've talked about doing your degree on your channel, blah, blah, blah. Like, can you help me decide if it's right for me and stuff? And I'm like, to be honest, I'd love to, but sort of no. It sort of has to be your call because things are so different now to when even I was at university just a couple of years ago. And coupled with that is the fact that it's a deeply, deeply personal choice anyway. And I have friends that I went to uni with that probably shouldn't have gone to uni. They did that. They just did it because they thought that it was the kind of well-trodden path that everyone sort of went through. And so, of course, it must have been the right call. But there were plenty of them that probably would have been better off just getting a job and jumping straight into it and getting more experience. And I really, really think you have to make the call for your own self.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For me, though, agreed. It was
Yeah, same.
just, I mean, like, I'm so glad I know about, determinism and all that stuff, but just the whole of it, like, growing as a person, it was so beneficial. It put me so out of my comfort zone. In terms of like socially, I feel like it was just as good as like the actual learning side of it, if not more.
Yeah.
But yeah, learned
You
a
know
lot.
what? One of the best things I think I learned at uni. So I picked like the hardest degree that I could pick. Right?
Yeah.
And just like I was like,
That's
let
where
me
we
find
differ.
the degree. Yeah, let me find the degree that's going to take the most time out of my day. Which for a YouTuber is a silly decision, but I did it anyway, right? And one of the things that I really learned from it all, I learned a huge amount from my degree. Most of it was not physics. Most of it was other things. And one of those lessons was nothing is too hard to learn. And I think that this is something that I'd always felt quite strongly even prior to going to university, because I was a mentor at one point, student mentor, so I would be mentoring my peers and people younger than me. And I've done just a whole variety of bits of teaching and things over the years in my past as well. And I really, really think that with the right attention and the right explanation and the right intent, you can teach anyone literally anything. It doesn't matter if we're talking about quantum physics or rocket science, or if we're talking about a bit of just numeracy, like adding numbers together. Like, it can be a complex thing or a simple thing. But I really feel like anyone can learn anything, and that's it was evidenced to me by the fact that at university there were people that were incredibly talented at what they were doing naturally, and they had a real gift for numbers and things like that, and they just got it straight away. And then there were also people that didn't get it at all straight away, and they had to work their butts off to get there. But every single one of them still managed to get those concepts nailed down just the same. And there's never been something I've come across in my entire life where, with the right explanation, two people on opposite ends of the kind of like knowledge spectrum wouldn't end up in the same place of being able to understand that concept. Like, if you have the right teacher and if you get the right explanation, you can learn anything. And it's something that I think would help a lot of people to believe, or to try and kind of put stock into and put faith into, even if they're a bit uncertain of it, because I think a lot of people second guess themselves when they're in school, and they tell themselves that they can't do something, and they talk themselves down, and they go, well, in my conditions with my teacher and things, it's not possible. But I just really, really strongly think that, yes, don't get me wrong, circumstances will mean that some people don't get access to those correct teachers and to those correct explanations. I'm not saying everyone has an equal opportunity. Don't please misconstrue my words. But it's really a thing in terms of just theoretically the act of learning stuff. I think that everyone is capable of learning as complex and deeply as they like. And it's kind of transitioned over to a lot of the stuff that I do with YouTube. Like, I'll be diving deep into a story video and talking about some weird stuff for Call of Duty Zombies, and it's very far away from physics. But every now and then, there'll be like a physics thing that comes up, and I'm like, right, I've got a pretty broad audience here, right? Like, we might be wanting to talk about Maxwell's equations in a YouTube video, but I've got people that are 12 years old watching these videos. How the hell do I convey anything to them? And in certain situations, I'll just glance past it because the content wouldn't be better served for having that explanation in there. But other times I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna try and teach someone something they didn't know. And it's so satisfying to do it because you surprise people sometimes. You'll get people that were like, I never thought that I'd be able to follow something like this. And like, I've watched 3 other videos on it and I didn't understand, but I've just watched this and you know what? It kind of makes sense. And that is such a satisfying place to be in as a creator. I love it. It's so good. Yeah.
Damn.
I love teaching. It's fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Well,
I'm not sure where I was going with that.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I'm fine to keep going if you want, but I know we've already gone over our time. So if you need
let's wrap it there.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Right on, dude. Well, that was awesome. As I said when we started this, I was like, I have one thing I want to talk about, and I'm sure we will fill the rest. And we did that and more.
Yeah. We are, we're very good at doing that, I think. Every time we talk, every single time. And it happens to me with Matt as well. Whenever I get in a call with Matt, we start off and we might have like a reason that we're jumping in the call. And then we both just end up talking about life and the universe and everything for hours.
Dude, I love it.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I love people that I can just have crazy conversations with. So, all right, guys, that's gonna wrap things up. If you could please go subscribe to Milo. He took his time out of the day to do this conversation with me for my channel. So I think he like gives something back to him for doing that. It would be super cool of you. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you want to leave a like, all that good stuff, that would be awesome. And maybe we'll do another one of these sometime with some other people that I would like to sit down and have a conversation with. Anyways, though, talk to you guys later.